What's going on, everyone? This is Cross, and today we are talking about how many spells you can cast in a single turn of combat. You may have heard before that you can only cast one leveled spell in a single turn. I'm here to tell you that that rule is found nowhere in the books. It doesn't exist. So what is the rule, and what are you actually able to do? According to the PHB, the rule states, and this is on page 202 of the PHB, a spell cast with a bonus action is especially swift. You must use a bonus action on your turn to cast the spell, provided you haven't taken a bonus action this turn. You can't cast another spell during the same turn except a cantrip with a casting time of one action. Well, that kind of sounds like one leveled spell per turn, but that's not what it says. It's stating, if you cast a spell as a bonus action, it doesn't matter if it's a cantrip, it doesn't matter if it's a leveled spell. Any spell cast as a bonus action then puts the restriction on you that you can't cast another spell during the same turn, except for a cantrip with a casting time of one action. That's what the rule is. So, if you were to cast a spell as an action, you can also cast a spell as a reaction. You can also cast a spell if you happen to get a second action. That means if you were to cast Fireball, Action Surge, and Fireball, that's perfectly legal. Why? Because you haven't cast a spell as a bonus action. If you were to cast Healing Word and then cast a leveled spell like Cure Wounds, that would be illegal. If you were to cast Healing Word, you could use your action to cast Sacred Flame, Action Surge, and Sacred Flame, because you're still restricted that same turn to use your action. That's what the rule is. However, as long as you avoid the bonus action, you can cast as many spells as you possibly can using your action economy. You have action, reaction, bonus action, and movement. That's your action economy. And therefore, as long as none of your spells use a bonus action to cast, you can fully utilize your full action economy, actions, reactions, to cast spells during that turn. Then there's the case of certain spells that persist and continue using your bonus action. We'll use Spiritual Weapon as an example. On the initial cast of Spiritual Weapon, you are casting the spell. But if you use the Spiritual Weapon later, you are not casting the spell. The spell is already there. So, you could attack with the Spiritual Weapon using your bonus action, cast another spell like Cure Wounds, and if you had Action Surge, you could then use another Cure Wounds if you wanted to, whatever you have available to you. And if you had Counterspell through some source, you could still Counterspell. That's what the basic rules are. For DMs that do not want someone to cast Fireball and then be able to Counterspell a Counterspell on their Fireball, if you don't want that interaction, what I suggest is making a house rule that essentially occupies the spell components, the verbal, somatic, and material components, and say that if you are in the middle of casting a spell using the particular component, you can't also utilize that component unless you meet the requirements. Remember, somatic components require you have an open hand. So if their other hand is holding a staff, they would have to drop the staff to then use another somatic component. But because that they're already have their verbal and material made, they also couldn't use a reaction that requires those things. If you have any questions about particular spells and their interactions and how this rule works, make sure to throw those in the comments below. I'll try to answer as many as possible. For now, I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time.